I'd like to share a revelation with you. In 1999, The Matrix was created, and by far it was a perfect machine. Unaware were people of its success, and unaware were people of its potential. Many asking the question, what is The Matrix? Many wondering what could possibly be coming for the future of this franchise. And, well, in my most surprised state, we made a sequel, even though the first one was perfect. You see, it needed no improvement. It needed no continuation. It was symbolic of what you people would call high-octane entertainment, technical kung fu fighting, gunplay, a story that raises questions but has no ambiguity. And now here we are, 21 years later, we have returned to the Matrix. Why the fuck did we do that? All right, guys, welcome to my review of The Matrix Resurrections, and woo, hot garbage. Yes, hot garbage that I'm very happy that I did not go to the theater to see this movie. Pretty much, I mean, look, let me tell you something. You guys know, especially for those who've been here a while, those who come to the streams, when we've been talking about The Matrix, I love the first Matrix. I think it is a revolutionary film. It really, really set the tone for many movies to follow, even now, 20 years later. And we got Matrix Reloaded, which I still enjoy for the most part. It has one of the best car chasing scenes, if not the best car chasing scene in cinema, in my personal opinion. Even though the movie is not, by far not perfect, even though the narrative and the story does not need to go forward after the first one, there's still many elements of The Matrix Reloaded that I liked. And then we got Matrix, Revolutions, excuse me. And this movie felt more like Return of the Jedi. And the reason I say that is because you got the war in Zion, you got the one-on-one between Neo and Agent Smith, and then you have Niobe and her crew and Morpheus flying their way to get to Zion while being chased by a bunch of Sentinels. And so how do I compare that to the Return of the Jedi? Luke versus Vader, Smith versus Neo, right? The war in Endor, the war in Zion. Trying to get to the Death Star, a bunch of, basically really the Millennium Falcon, right? Can we just be honest? It was basically Billy D. Williams and Millennium Falcon. And here we have Niobe and her crew heading to Zion. Again, that's really what I see. And if you know me well, I'm not a big Return of the Jedi fan. I think The Empire Strikes Back is still the #1 best movie in the Star Wars, whatever the hell you want to call it, the Skywalker saga. Be that as it may, so I finally watched Resurrections, and this movie is just terrible. And what's more frustrating about this movie is that within all this garbage, you actually have some moments of genius. And I'm going to get more into that in a different video that's going to be for members only, in regards to how I think someone who is considered to be very progressive and very social justice oriented in Wachowski brothers, in particular Lana, I should say Wachowski sisters now, right? They both transitioned. This was actually quite the opposite message, and I think maybe she was trying to send. But again, a lot of people don't like to get into politics, and I understand that, so I'm going to make that strictly for those who are members, because I know a lot of the members like when I talk about that stuff. So that'll be up at some point either today or tomorrow. But let's get into the movie. So if you haven't seen it, if you don't mind spoilers, stick around, because I am going to spoil this movie. There's really not much to spoil, and quite frankly, you're not missing anything. In fact, I would say if you had a choice between jumping off a cliff and watching this, just take a hike and jump off the cliff. You're better off. All right, so basically this movie is just a complete duplicate of the original, only with different elements, different characters, things like that. And basically, you've probably heard everyone say, "Oh, this is very meta, very meta." Not in a good way. It's very, it's the kind of movie that's trying to tell you that it's aware of what it's doing, but it's still on your side. You can't do that. You just can't do that. So at this point in the Matrix, it's 60 years later, and Neo has been reinserted back into the Matrix, and he has basically been blue-pilled to death by his psychiatrist, who is played by Neil Patrick Harris, who personally, I like Neil Patrick Harris. I think he's a decent actor. Pretty much everything I've seen him in, I like. My dog's playing with her bowl. Sorry. Of everybody that can remain quiet in the house, I can't control the dog. So anyway, so Neo is basically a video game designer, and he designed The Matrix, the game within The Matrix. This is kind of his way of subconsciously telling his story, you know, like he doesn't remember anything, but somehow, why are you giving me your bowl? Why is it every time I record, she wants to do this? What is it? You don't like when you see this, my dog? She wants to be part of the video. Is that what it is? All right, I'm gonna have to, no, don't paw me. No, you see this? Now she's pawing me. All right, go away. I got a video to record. Can you do that for me? Go away. Thank you. All right, so sorry about that. There she is back there. So yeah, so this is he's being blue pilled to death, but there's still that subconscious in him that kind of knows what's going on, and it's really the same thing. You get a team from the real world who comes in to rescue Neo, and they get him out of the Matrix with the red pill, and then they go with their ship to get him out of the pink goopy cylinder to bring him back out. It's the same thing. And then in between that, there's just ridiculous, but at the same time, genius exposition of them creating a third Matrix movie. And it's very meta because Neo's boss, who's basically Agent Smith, I don't even remember the name of the character, but he's Agent Smith. He has an alternate name, but he's Agent Smith, and a very poor Agent Smith he is. And I feel bad for the actor. It's not his fault. I actually thought he acted pretty well, but you're trying to do a character that's iconic. Agent Smith is considered to be one of the most iconic villains in cinema, right up there with like Vader and things of that nature. So to have somebody come in and just try and do this role, you can't do it. Okay, you were either better off creating a new agent or just not having Agent Smith at all, or rather creating a new agent, trying to bring back Hugo Weaving, and if you couldn't do that, just don't do it at all. So, and then it's funny because he sits there and he tells Neo, "We're returning to the Matrix because Warner Brothers," and I'm like, I can't believe they're actually doing this. You're trying to really throw out there. It's just absurd. This movie makes zero sense. It has really no connection in my eyes with the prior three movies, especially the first one. Even though it's trying to duplicate that, there's really no connection. Morpheus is played by, look at this. You see this? I'm going to tilt my camera down so you can see what I have to deal with when I'm recording. See her right there? Look at her. You know I'm recording a video, right? Why do you do this when I record? The whole time you've been laying down. So anyway, so Morpheus is really a waste here. Okay, first of all, again, the actor, fantastic. Anyway, so Morpheus is this means nothing here. Okay, he's basically starts off as an agent, and then he talks to Bugs, and then suddenly Bugs is played by Jessica Henwick, I think her name is. Yeah, Jessica Henwick, and has like a little conversation with him, and then poop, suddenly he's not an agent anymore. He's also the only agent that wears a black suit while all the other agents wear a gray suit. They reenact the whole first scene of the first movie, but it's not really Trinity, it's another girl. And let me tell you something. There's a scene where she jumps off the roof just like Trinity, and the agents follow, but also other cops, like, you know, in the Matrix or whatever. And they're like 6 feet away from her, and there's like 3 of them shooting right at her. How could they possibly miss? The bullet spread from those guns alone, they would have accidentally hit her. And this happens more than several times in this movie. It even happens in the scene where Morpheus is in the bathroom and there's a cop that comes in, or another cop, a cop comes in to shoot him, and he's shooting right at, I mean, the space in the back, it's unreal. It's unreal how there were multiple times in this movie somebody was getting shot at from nearly point blank range and do not get hit. Like, you look at it and you think to yourself, how could they possibly miss that? This makes zero sense. Also, when you do a movie, what's supposed to be an action movie, where Neo, or rather Keanu Reeves, is the star of this movie and has been the star of this franchise, and you've seen some of the things he's done in the prior movies, I don't think you can get away with this movie not having him have a gun the whole movie. I mean, this is a man who takes gun training seriously. Have you seen what he does with guns? And not in movies, I'm talking about real life. You talk about a guy who has revitalized his career playing a character, John Wick, that toes gung fu. And you're going to have him in a movie? You're going to try and convince me he's the star and he doesn't hold a fucking gun the whole movie? Keanu Reeves, Neo, does not hold a gun once in this movie.
No way. No way.
So there's a lot of issues with this movie, and I'm already going on 11 minutes. I don't want to make this too long, but here's what I'm going to say. Don't watch this. Don't, if you haven't watched it yet, do yourself a favor. It's a complete waste of time. There's one scene that just drags. It's basically Neo and his team of software or game designers in what's considered, I guess, a modern day boardroom, where it's not really a boardroom. It's a room where everybody talks about ideas. And they basically, it seems like they're going day by day talking about ideas, but they just all keep saying the same shit. Oh, they're saying basically the exact same line, but in different clothes and what appears to be on different days. Kind of emphasizing the fact that these guys don't have any original ideas. Wow, yeah, I guess that is meta. But this sequence, I should say, because there's music playing during this time as well. And you also see Neo, taking the pills. You also notice that if you pay attention, whenever he's near something where you can see his reflection, it's not really him, it's an older him. Like, it's basically how people in that world see him versus how he sees himself. So if you remember the first Matrix, they talk about digital image residuary or something along those lines. Well, he still sees himself as an older, but not super older Neo, because what the machines did to him made the aging process slow down quite a bit. But in the mirror, everyone else sees him as a super old guy with long gray hair. Anyway, the movie's a mess. That sequence goes for about 15 minutes or something like it. Even if it didn't, it felt extraordinarily long. And it's just bad. It's a bad movie. And then finally, we figure out why Trinity is alive. And essentially what happened was, when they both died, the machines but the machines basically put them back together and did some machine stuff. I don't know how that's possible when Trinity was already long dead before Neo even fought Smith in the third movie. So how there was even some sort of preservation there, and considering how many tentacles pierced her body. Again, science stuff, right?
Yes, science.
So yeah, so it's the basic premise of the movie is that Neil Patrick Harris is the villain, and he is aware that the connection between Trinity and Neo is very strong, that if you put them too close together, they can go against the system. If you keep them too far apart, the system will fail. You have to keep them together. So what they did was they basically were running the Matrix, the core of the Matrix, on Neo and Trinity by, in the real world, having their pods next to each other, having them reinserted. But in the Matrix, they don't know each other. Trinity's name is actually Tiffany. She's married. She has 2 kids. And Neo is, like I said, a game designer. And how this all comes to a head is basically Neo, after he's released from the Matrix, wants to go back in, save Trinity. He comes up, or they come up with this elaborate plan with the girl Sati from the Matrix Reloaded and the Matrix. If you remember the little girl, well, she's actually back in this movie. I had a feeling that was her when I saw her in the trailer, because she looks like the little girl. It's just older. And you figure now she's got to be about 29, 30 years old. So she's in the movie. She is the one that comes up with the plan with Bugs. By the way, Bugs is a great character and all, but she gets forgotten for a long period of time. It doesn't really even feel like there's a central character here. Even Neo, to some extent, doesn't feel like the central character, because it's not only about him this time, it's also about Trinity, but you don't really get to see Trinity until towards the end of the movie when she's finally out of the pod. It is a mess. It was a mess. And Neo starts to learn Neo things. He fights Agent Smith once, but Agent Smith ends up being the one to save the day at the end because the villain, Neil Patrick Harris, who's known as the Analyst, learned how to use bullet time from what Neo developed in the game. And we also know that bullet time is also in games now, which was the idea taken from the Matrix. So I guess maybe that's Lana's way of expressing her frustration. I don't know. Maybe she's mad that people took her ideas and put it in games, so she put it in the game. So now, even though Neo can still bullet time, Neil Patrick Harris's bullet time supersedes his bullet time because Neo created it in the game, but Neil Patrick Harris created it in the Matrix. So it's like this bullet time versus bullet time, but my bullet time is better and your bullet time is not so great, and I can stop you, but you can't stop me. And you see? So someone got to plug me in the Matrix for a good 5 minutes. So it's this a big mess, and apparently Agent Smith cannot be controlled by the bullet time, so he comes in at the end and he saves the day. And even though Neil Patrick Harris, the Analyst, had this thing where a lot of the people within this portion of the Matrix, this city, wherever, they have these like bots. So they're not real people. They're they're bots pretending to be people, and they're actually married to real people. So I don't know how the real people within the Matrix that's not real is actually having sex with a bot that's real in the Matrix but not real in the real world. And then, you know, he has this protocol that he hits swarm. So now these people become like living weapons. So like Trinity and Neo are driving through the city and people are just chucking themselves out the window.
I'll be back, dude.
But there's hundreds of bots that are literally throwing themselves at all the good guys. And then you have these other characters that are part of the crew of the ship that Bugs runs. I don't even remember the name. No one gives a shit. Bugs is the person there. No one gives a shit about her crew. I've never seen these actors. I don't remember their names in the movie. And they put them in these positions where they could die, but you don't give a shit because you don't know who they are. They never had more than 3 lines. You know, characters in the first Matrix were memorable. You remember who Switch was. You remember Tank. You remember Dozer. Okay? And you felt bad when Switch and APOC died. You felt bad when Dozer died and Tank almost got killed. These people, this crew, you know nothing about them. They don't say a goddamn word until one woman goes up to Neo and says, Trinity was my hero, and because of that, I'm going to help you, bro. And then that's it. And then she gets into a position where she almost gets killed, but no one gives a shit because no one even knows her name, and she didn't have more than 1 line. And you get a cameo of one of my favorite characters from The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, the Vision, who is now a freaking hobo. So that was like, just, I can't believe this. And he's a hobo because when this new Matrix was created, all those characters like the Vision, the Ghost, and all those programs, those rogue programs pretty much got taken out. But then Agent Smith brought them back in, and now there's this whole it is a mess, man. This movie is trash. This movie's garbage. Anyway, you can hear me rant and talk more about this tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fat Samurai Guy's channel. We're going to be there having fun. And I have a lot more I want to say. This movie, this review is almost 20 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. Do not go see this movie. It fucking sucks. Thank you. Goodbye.